Welcome to another episode of Let There Be Talk. It is Monday, November 14th. Welcome aboard, everybody. Today, I will be dedicating this episode to everyone that works in the concert industry behind the scenes. I'm talking about the techs, the tour managers, the sound people, venue staff, the tour bus drivers, everybody. I want to dedicate this one to all of you because you guys are the unsung heroes of rock and roll, comedy, R&B, hip hop, country, western, whatever it is. You guys are the heroes of the touring out there. You keep it going. You keep the machine working. You do all the stuff. So the groups, the acts, the comedians, whoever it is can get up there and do their night of a couple hours of glory. Well, in the meantime, you guys are all working 17, 18-hour days, sometimes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months a year, sometimes a year, 2 years, away from your families, your loved ones, and your pets. These are the people that keep rock and roll going. They've been doing it since the beginning of touring. They don't get a lot of glory. You don't hear about them. And they are the only way that you get to see your favorite group or comedian when they're on tour. That's the only way you get to see them because these people do it. They do the insanity of it. I've seen it. I've been out on the road. I watch how hard these people work. They bust their ass. Minimal sleep a lot of times. Away from, like I said, loved ones. Not sleeping in their own bed. And so, yeah, this one goes out to all of you. And I do try to have some cool, interesting people on the show that are part of that behind-the-scenes thing. And today is Jason Roberts, a rock and roll tour bus driver who was our driver, Marcus's driver, on the rock comedy tour the last 2 months. And I'll tell you, that is not an easy job. It's got to be one of the hardest jobs on the tour. It might look easy. You go, what do you mean, man? You just get in the bus and you just drive, sit on your butt and get to the next city. You know, I think the lighting people, I think that's harder, or, you know, the stage crew. But yeah, you got to imagine you're driving a bus and all of those people's lives are in your hands. You can't doze off. You got to be completely on it. There's no co-pilot. There's nothing up there. It's just you and the road in the middle of the night. And shit can happen. I've seen it. We were out on the tour, and a couple meth heads decided to drive down the off-ramp the wrong way onto the freeway, going the wrong way, and almost drove right into the crew bus, barely missing them, crashing into the guardrail and getting out and fighting on the freeway or whatever they did. And I felt the bus, you know, the brakes lock them up. You know, it's a miracle that there's not a shitload of accidents out there, because I see how idiots are driving, especially these days. I'm not the bus drivers. I'm talking about just the idiots out there in their cars, texting, not looking, you know, half awake, drunk, whatever they are. It's just a miracle. So hats off to these bus drivers, man. A lot of stress, a lot of work. Got to stay focused. And Jason was one of the best drivers I've ever seen. And not only that, but super interesting and cool. Just a crushing great spirit. You know, just amazing spirit. You know, you wake up at like 7. Hey, Dean, we're in Seattle. All right. You know, and he just smile on his face, smoking one of those old grandpa pipes, the curled up one with some kind of nice smelling old school tobacco. Great guy, great episode. So you guys are going to love this. A tour bus driver right here. You want to know how to get into the biz? You want to know what it's like to do it? This is the episode for you. This episode is brought to you by Migos Dog. If you've got a dog, you want to feed that dog the best food so that dog sticks around forever. Don't give it that bullshit from China or whatever that's full of sawdust and not regulated. Just feeding your dog whatever. You don't even know. Go with Migos Dog. 100% human grade food. Made right in California, out in Malibu. Now, if you're in the Los Angeles area, they deliver to your house. All of California, you can pick this up at Erewhon's and Healthy Spot. Gertie loves it. I feed her the beef now. She was on the salmon for a long time. Now she's rocking a little beef and duck. They've got it all. They've also got toppers to put on your existing dog food. Maybe your dog is a little finicky. Give it a little Migos Dog toppers. MigosDog.com. Follow them on Instagram also. And don't forget, you're looking for some denim, leather, or boots, there's one place only to go. Standard and Strange. They are in Oakland, California, New York, and New Mexico. And they are on Instagram, Standard and Strange. Check them out, standardandstrange.com. That is where I buy all of my denim. Specializing in Japanese handmade clothing. John Lofgren boots, Momotaro denim, the real McCoys. They have the best selection of real McCoy leathers I've ever seen. Bucos, D-Pockets, J100s, all of it. Standardandstrange.com. When you call them or contact them, tell them I sent you. All right, I love all you guys. We're going to get into the episode right now. Don't forget, follow me on Patreon. I just dropped another bonus episode, number 135 bonus episode. And patreon.com/Dean Del Rey greatly helps the podcast. Any kind of support really helps me out here running this machine. Also, some tour dates coming up. Philly, I will be at Soul Joel's the first weekend of December. Also, I'll be at the Grand Comedy Club in Escondido. And I'm also going to be out with Bill Burr in December at Salt Lake City, Boise, Idaho, and Colorado. So, tour dates, please come out and see some shows. It was great to be in Vegas, 14 shows, really getting some of the new bits together. Feeling good. The Comedy Cellar at the Rio was fantastic. Some sold-out shows, great audiences. Felt good. Went by quick. 14 shows went by quick. Anyway, I love all you. And subscribe on iTunes and leave a review. Same with the YouTube. Here we go. Candles are lit for the rock and roll tour bus driver, Mr. Jason Roberts. All right, here we are, another episode of Let There Be Talk, coming to you from the Marcus King Tour, and we are in Seattle today. I think we got 11 dates left, and when I first signed on to do it, I was like, 34 dates, that'll be no problem, and then we get a couple weeks in, I'm like, holy shit, this is long, and then I start to look around and think about all the people and the moving parts of this tour that keep it going. And it's such an interesting animal to think about rock and music touring. And one of the main components in it, depending on what level you are, is a tour bus. And with that tour bus, you need a tour bus driver. And I've always wanted to talk to a tour bus driver, and today we have one. Introduce yourself.
Hey, Dean, I'm Jason Roberts.
Yep, driving our bus, or Marcus's bus. I'm a guest on it.
Yep.
It's weird to think about touring because there's three levels to me that I like. Okay, you got private jet touring, which is amazing. You just pull right up on the tarmac, you get into the plane, and you fly to the gig. Then you have tour bus touring, which I would say is second for me, and third would be commercial touring, which is the worst to me because anything can go wrong with canceled flights, just being around people, and the nonstop, TSA, the humans,
Right.
that factor.
Right. Yeah, if you're going to do a series of one-offs like that, it could be a nightmare real fast. If there's a weather 2,000 miles away, it could mess up your whole day for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I tour usually weekends. That's how I do it.
Right.
So you go out on a Thursday morning, gamble. You're gambling, going, okay, I got first show's Thursday night. I'll fly out Thursday morning. You're already hoping that flight's not delayed.
Well, I'm working on my pilot's license. I'll fly your jet.
I know. Yeah, my jet.
You're right.
I'm 56. I'm like, will I get to a jet status?
Of
don't.
course.
Yeah. I always say yeah. You know, you can't say no, or else what are you doing? I mean, some people go, "Oh, the ego with that," and it's like, well, it's not the ego. You have to lie to yourself to keep going.
It's a preferred method of travel. It's just a little expensive, but
Yeah.
if you can get that point. But touring, touring is great. It'll wear on you, but it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And you get to, if you can get to where you love the people that you tour with, there's no match. You know what I mean? It's hard to explain, which I'm looking forward to doing, what that's like.
Yeah.
It's a type of camaraderie. It's a brotherhood that is truly special. You go home and it's bittersweet for sure.
Oh, it is one of the most incredible things a human can do is struggle your whole life in a career. I played music for years, and now I'm doing comedy. And you want to get to that level of having a tour bus. And the reason you want to get to that level is the beauty of stepping off stage, getting on the bus, and being able to go to bed or just hang out and watch a movie or whatever and be in the next city the next day is unreal, and it truly is a submarine. You're just traveling around America. You have no idea what day it is. You don't know what the weather is because usually the blinds are closed and you're in a bunk,
Right. Yeah.
And then you get there and you're like, I mean, my dream is I want to work on the comedy for 8 months at the Comedy Store. And then I want to book a 1-month tour and do all the cities every year. Instead of going out every weekend, I want to go out and cover the whole tour in a month and a half or so, and then go back and work on comedy again for a year. So I'm sleeping in my own bed for most of the time.
It's a nice way to break it up. And if you time that tour right, like in the fall, like right now, weather's perfect just about everywhere.
Oh, my God. We've been hitting stellar. We're in Seattle today, and we were in Portland yesterday. Those are known for nonstop gloom and rain, and it is just beautiful out.
Yeah, we've hit it.
And I'm staying in the same hotel I was at 6 months ago, and those fucking building records are still working over there. I had them 6 months ago when they were like lower.
Right.
I was lower. I'm in my room, and it was like... But yeah, I mean, there is no complaining.
Progress, right?
Yeah. But it's wild to think about. Here it is. I know Marcus King from just having him on the podcast and becoming friends and texting with him and going to his shows. But now you're thrown into a small tube with humans across America that you don't know and you start to get to know. And of course, what people don't know is you can't shit on the bus. There's no shitting on the bus. I did hear that some buses have a grinder now.
Yeah, it's still not recommended, but yeah, we can physically handle it. But yeah, it's just better not to.
Well, that's a weird animal because you now your body, you're trying to schedule shits, which is so weird. Your body starts to adjust like, well, we're not shitting from this hour to this hour, Well,
for non-touring people, it seems hard to imagine. Like, what do you mean I can't go to the bathroom at a certain time? But for people that are used to this, it's just automatic. Somehow a weekend or something like that, it's like the body automatically knows how to handle it. I don't know how everybody does it, but it just seems to work.
I think it's just like you become a chameleon. Like your body really just kind of changes with the what you need to do.
Right,
You know, it's
right.
really wild. And also you don't want to be shitting because the bathroom's right in the
In the living room.
It's in the living room. You know, like people are just like, dude. There's so many animals we'll get into about touring on a tour bus because I love tour buses. I've always loved tour buses, and they've gotten better and better and better. But one of the things that I love about Marcus, and I didn't even hear any kind of rules when I got on it, but there's no talking in the sleeping quarters and no lights, which is amazing because some people are just on their phones in the modern day, or they're, getting texts, so that is the silent area. And then Marcus has the back lounge as his bedroom, and then the front is the party room. So that's a wild thing, because if I want, I just go right to bed and I don't hear shit.
Yeah, I don't even know if the guys realize this because it's not always common, but they have a level of respect for each other that I don't always see. It's great. Yeah, you're right. You open that door to go to the back, in the bunk alley there, dead silent.
Dead silent.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Fantastic.
And that's what's really helping me because I like to get a proper amount of sleep because your voice starts to fry if you don't sleep. Oh, my God.
Combine that with a good driver and you can get a good night's sleep.
Oh, yeah. Now we'll get into the bad drivers and everything like that. But so you have seen other bands or people where they don't respect each other and it's just crazy?
Absolutely. Just no regard whatsoever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just in their bunks, like just partying.
And messing with each other. Yeah, just talking in the bunks, drinking, ripping the curtains open. Hey, man, get back up,
Fuck.
Yeah.
Just a sorority or frat house.
Nonstop.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they don't grow out of it, but, when you hit it just right, it's great.
Now, the wild thing about touring in buses is how far they've come. If you watch the movie Almost Famous, that's so real. Because back then, you would just lease a Greyhound or a Trailwinds or whatever that other company was, a regular bus, like a passenger bus, and just sat in seats and went around America. That's crazy.
Oh, there was no tour. There was no tour bus at all. And if I understand this right, a guy in Florida just said, "Why don't we extend a bus?" And then they just started adding stuff. Well, why don't we add a cooler? Well, why don't we add a generator? Why don't we add a refrigerator? Then the TVs came in, and then a VHS came in, then eventually the DVDs, and when internet came around, well, we got to have that, and it's going to keep going.
Yeah.
If it's something that we could have that makes it better, it's going to be there.
Was that the Florida coach guy, you think?
Yeah, that's him.
Is that guy still around?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, but he was a pioneer for sure.
Yeah, because what was the brand before Prevost? There was another one. Eagle.
Eagle. Yeah.
So the first tours on buses I did back then in the day was on an Eagle, and that just seemed deluxe because you were on a bus that had beds.
Right.
Before you just sat upright and just nodded off.
Just sat up like you were on a Greyhound bus
with no seatbelts.
Right.
You're just sitting there. It's a wild animal because unlike airplanes where you have a guy flying and another guy there and maybe a third guy up there, this is a driver. And you're putting all your trust into that guy. Mm-hmm. You don't know what he's done all day. Mm-hmm. You don't know what his sleep habits are. Because I know when I drive far, I nod off and shit,
Yeah.
And that shit is scary. I've had drivers where I sling open the curtain like, hey, yo, got up there? And they'll be like, oh, yeah, it was just a raccoon up there, to make some shit up, but he was dozing off and hits the fucking, it's all that shit is scary. And what people don't know is we drive at night. So the driver sleeps during the day in a hotel room, usually gets over to the venue around 11 or 12 when we're getting ready to leave, and then he drives through the night. And I've seen drivers where I'm on stage and I look over and they're there. And I'm like, hey, shouldn't you be in bed? So it is a scary, weird thing. Now, let's get into how you start and how long you've been driving.
Well, I started on the road as a guitar tech.
Oh, wow,
about
really?
19 years ago.
Wow.
I was a guitar tech for Hank Jr. for 10 years.
Hank Jr.?
Yeah, Hank Jr.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Did you play guitar?
No, when I did play with Hank, I played just some of the utility parts, mandolin and stuff. It was fairly rare, but I was his full-time guitar tech.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, I played, but and then I was one of Brad Paisley's guitar techs for a little while. Anyway, so I was the guy that basically sat up front with the driver, and I loved the views out the windows. And after about 15 years of doing what I was doing, I just felt like I wanted to change. I was burnt out. I wanted to change. But in a way, I was so used to that, going out on tour and then coming home. I wanted to keep the schedule for some reason. It was just already ingrained.
Single?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I just had to ask that because, some people have, single from touring.
Right.
Yeah.
But then, so I just went for it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to make a life change. I've got my CDL. I started driving. It was certainly a different perspective. Mostly the drivers that come to drive a tour bus would drive trucks. And the problem is it's easier to take somebody that already tours and teach them how to drive and have them be a tour bus driver, a good tour bus driver at that point, than it is to take a driver and teach them what touring is all about. And that one usually doesn't go as well. And that's the more common one.
Well, that is an interesting thing you're saying there, because if you do look at truck drivers, they are loners and they're by themselves for the whole time. So if they get thrown into this thing and maybe there's some wild people on the bus, or there's, whatever it is, and they don't have people skills. I've seen bus drivers, they don't have people skills.
Oh, no,
and you're like, this guy's a piece of shit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy. They're like, what the fuck? You're like, hey, dude, you work for the band.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
So, and another thing, what kind of training is there? The reason I'm asking you this was I had Tommy Shaw on the podcast, and he said due to COVID during the time, there was mandatory vaccine. And so a lot of the Florida bus drivers are like, well, I don't get a vaccine. So there was no drivers. So there was a slew of new drivers. And the guys in sticks did not want to ride with people that were brand new drivers. So they converted to flying, and they were losing money, but they didn't want to lose their lives. So what kind of training is there for this?
Almost none.
Really? Almost none?
I mean, really.
Really?
I mean, no kidding. This has been an industry that usually it was just people bringing people in, teaching them. You came under somebody's wing, and this is what it was like for so long. I mean, all through the late 70s, 80s, 90s, and then there was just an explosion of the amount of people that started touring. And you combine that with, so COVID, you mentioned COVID, it wasn't just that some of the people didn't want to get vaccines. It's that after a lot of these drivers that have been on tour for 30 years had a chance to be at home for the first time.
I already know.
They never came back.
I know. They're like, whoa, man.
Oh.
That's what was happening to me.
Right.
I had not been home for like 30 years or whatever.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're just going like, I mean, I had a job for like 3 or 4 years selling Harleys, but other than that, it was like, oh shit, this is pretty good.
Right.
Your calluses start to wear off.
It was pretty helpful to some of us that have hit the road for so long. It was a welcome break for some, and it was a very painful break for others. Yeah.
So a lot of drivers retired. They didn't have drivers.
Some of the
so
older guys,
there's no training or anything? Because I want to explain to people, most of the bands, if they have a bus, they still can't afford a full cargo truck for their gear, so the driver has to carry a trailer.
Yep.
And I remember the first 2 days or whatever I was in the bus with you, you backed into this fucking narrow thing, and you looked at me and go, not bad, just first try. And it was perfect. And I used to do landscaping growing up, and I drove the truck with the lawnmowers on the back.
Right.
And man, you take... because you turn the opposite when you're pulling a trailer. And if you need the trailer to go to the right, you turn to the left.
That's right.
And if you don't know what the fuck you're doing, next thing you know, it's kind of jackknifed and you've locked it. You can't even, you're like, I'm fucked.
Right. It's hard enough to parallel park in general, right? Try it in a bus and trailer.
Yeah, which is like probably 75 feet.
Right. It's about 75 feet.
It's insane, you know? So you say I want to drive and I just ride up front with you a couple weeks and you're like, okay, this works here and there. Because there's different gearing and everything. Also, air brakes and all that shit.
Yep.
You got to learn on trucks.
Well, that stuff, all the air brake stuff, that's all CDL stuff.
Right.
You learn that. You learn how that stuff works. That's a part of the license. But once you get on a tour bus to go on tour, there is no teacher.
Right.
So, and a lot of drivers, it's do they want to learn? And most kind of don't really. But if they want to really surrender to it, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a completely different thing. There's very, very, very few of us in the world.
Yeah, and very few probably that like it.
But no kidding.
Yeah, right. Because I've had drivers.
Well, it's a weird thing. When's the last time you woke up? You know, everything's good. You're tired, and you have your cup of coffee, and then you walk out into your living room into a party.
Yeah.
Right. You never know what kind of party you're going to get.
Yeah.
This is what's so different. It's not like waking up in the morning with everybody else. I wake up and walk into a party. It's either a dance party or a pity party or everything in between.
Yeah.
I never know.
Yeah.
I get back and I'm like on another planet. I'm like, what happened today?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's absolutely beautiful. Like everything was perfect. The show was perfect and everybody is happy.
Well, you're dealing with full-blown artists.
Yes.
Also, I think a weird thing with drivers is they're around sometimes multi-millionaires.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and the multi-millionaires are clueless about how to be polite. And that's one thing I loved about Marcus is not a multi-millionaire, but he is on his way up big time. And he is not a dick. Zero dick. It's wild how cool he is. But you can get some dicks out there, right?
Marcus will handle it well at every level.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's one thing I can say for sure.
100%.
He's got a beautiful mind.
I know.
And an even more beautiful heart.
It's so great, that guy, man. It's like pure soul. Just a perfect soul. It's wild. So when you first get the job, you're ready to drive. Who's your first drive?
Lucinda Williams.
Oh man, car wheels on a gravel road.
Yeah, and we did half the tour with.
Hey, honey.
Oh yeah, she was sweet.
Hey, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Wow. So you did? Were you aware of her? Obviously, because you're in the country world, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was listening to her. Yeah, she's a fantastic person.
Yeah.
We did
and were you nervous? So here's your first drive.
As soon as we locked eyes, as soon as we met, I was like, this is great.
Yeah. And how many dates was that tour?
That was about a month and a half.
Wow. So the first one's a long one.
Yeah.
Was it like on every night or?
Just about.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what bus were you driving? Like, does it work like this? You're a newer driver, so they give you a shit bus, or do the artists make sure they have the best bus?
Well, by the time I got into it, the industry was already starting to get pretty desperate. So no, they threw me right out with Lucinda, and it was a decent bus.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Because I remember when the buses really started to change. What I saw, I think it was Dolly Parton or something, but I remember at one time, when you're at a festival and you're in your bus, and then you see a crew guy and he's like, yeah, pop on our bus, and you're like, what the fuck is this? And it's like a resort in there.
Right, yeah.
Like there's no bunks. It's just the whole thing is the person's house.
Right.
Those are wild,
Yeah,
right?
they are.
I was
It's
like,
a full-on Star Coach. Yep.
I couldn't believe that.
Yep.
And those people usually kind of own those.
Yeah, a lot of times. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I heard that our bus, I guess, was like the Blues Travelers bus for years.
And that's how that got its name. Our bus is named Blues Traveler.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, I never even knew.
Yep.
So did they own it, or they just constantly used it?
At least it, yeah.
Yeah. Got ya. Blues Traveler. First of all, we have 8 bunks. It's called condo bunks.
Yeah.
So they're bigger. You can sit up in the bunk. But you can configure it in what, 8 or 12?
8 or 12, yep.
8 or 12. And man, I've been in 12. It's like you're in a middle bunk. It's like a coffin.
Yep.
Whoa.
It's like a World War II battleship. Everybody's just, all right, just sleep on a torpedo or whatever.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like a submarine.
Right.
You know, you're down in there, and man, if you get some snores or something, you are fucked. We don't have any snores that I've heard.
Yeah, the guys seem to be somehow quiet.
Now this one doesn't have the TVs in the bunks. They used to, right?
They did that for a while. There was about a 6-year period where they thought, well, we'll put TVs in there for everybody. And then the iPhone came out.
Yeah.
And then they did away with that.
Also, I think that it's like you had to watch whatever the people were watching in the front.
Right.
It wasn't like you could surf the channels.
Yeah.
And it's like if the guy didn't have headphones, you're like, dude, turn your TV off. I'm sleeping over here. Tour bus is amazing and wild, man. Now, how much gasoline does that fucking thing take? How many gallons?
Well, about 200 gallons.
About 200 gallons. And what's that get you?
Actually, per pound, it's the most efficient vehicle on the road.
Really?
Yeah.
Because it's diesel.
Well, just somehow the way the engine is configured, you wouldn't think so because it's 5-6 miles a gallon. And
Whoa.
you think, well, that's awful.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I thought that was horrible for years. And I did the math and found out that it was way more efficient than my car per pound.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Now you are an unusual driver because you can work on the bus too. Were you like a mechanic growing up?
Oh, no.
Oh no.
I learn as I go.
YouTubing?
Yep.
I mean, dude, mid-tour our generator caught on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a fun day for me.
Dude, all I heard was, dude, our bus is on fire. And I go, well, both my bags are off, man. 'Cause I always bring my bags off, man. Because, I got my computers and my podcast gear. I don't care about the clothes, but it's the computers and podcast stuff.
Yep.
Oh, my God. So when you're driving over and over, what are the common things that break on the buses? We haven't had a flat at all. I better knock on some fucking wood here.
Actually, buses break all the time. The
Really?
thing that they're just so complicated.
Yeah.
And they just break all the time. Now, people that do 2 or 3 shows, they're referred to as weekend warriors. No problem. The bus goes home every 3 days, gets fixed, goes back out. Going out on the road for months, then you have to deal with the problems on the road, and that's what makes it kind of more complicated.
Yeah. We don't have a generator.
But even
right
brand
now.
new buses, stuff just breaks. It
Wow.
just does. It's just a very complicated machine.
Now, what year's our bus?
2008 or something like that.
And it's got a couple million miles on it, right?
Yeah, about 1.3 million.
1.3 million. But it's kind of like a helicopter, right? They just rebuild it.
They constantly rebuild all of it all the time.
Right.
In a way.
Right.
You know,
Oh, yeah, just part by part.
Part by part.
Wow. Now,
That's its second engine.
second engine.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, diesel
Or
engines.
third engine, actually. It had 2 engine replacements, yeah.
Wow. Diesel engines go forever.
Well, that one goes for about 600,000 miles, and then they replace it.
Wow.
Something like that.
That's crazy. You drive for Lucinda, and that's a month and a half. Now, what is the longest tour you've done?
Drake was about 4 months.
Drake?
That was 4 months straight.
Wow.
So-
you're out for a...
Right.
Yeah.
And in 2019, I was out for 11 months straight.
Wow. 11 months straight. Do you own a house or pay rent somewhere?
I own a house in Nashville.
And you're never there.
Well, not that year. I won't do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Finding a good balance is important, you know.
Now, Drake, how many people? It's just Drake, right?
Yeah, Drake, and he had a band.
Oh, he had a band.
Yeah. But it was quite a big production. I think that was 24 trucks, 10 buses, 11 buses, something like that.
And were you actually driving Drake?
I was driving Drake's band.
Drake's band.
Yeah.
Got ya. And Drake was on a bus. He wasn't flying?
He flew for part of the time, and he rode on a bus. The thing about flying as a singer and then doing a show the same night is the ears.
Yeah.
And Drake is actually one of the few artists that are smart enough to figure that out quick, and he preferred to ride because it was better for the show.
Oh, yeah.
Occasionally he would fly only when he had to, but yeah.
Wow. Now, any NDAs ever have to be signed?
Yes.
Oh, yeah?
Yep. It was an NDA on Drake, and a lot of them actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Not
Because-
everybody, but depending on the level of fame.
Yeah. This is a fun thing, too, while we're out touring around. we're usually sleeping and you're stopping at like Pilots to get gas or whatever. And you were like, yeah, man, that was the Roger Waters tour out there.
We ran into Roger Waters' tour, yeah.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
You're just out there and you run in. So how's that happening? You pull in the tour bus, does another driver roll up and go, who you got?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes we'll just go up to each other. Hey, man, because I mean, we're fairly rare out there. So when you see one of us, it need no introduction. Hey, who you got?
Yeah.
And it's just this pleasant, quick little exchange. And all right, take care, man.
Now, how many bus companies are there, you think?
Well, there's about 5 or 6 well-known ones. I mean, 5 or 6 really legitimate ones.
Yeah.
Then there's a bunch of smaller
little stragglers.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I met a dude in L.A. out at Pioneer Town, Joshua Tree, and he owns some big bus company in L.A. or whatever. And he was out there buying some ranch, and he's we started talking a little bit. I could tell he was wealthy, just by the stuff he was wearing and his girl and everything. I was like, this guy's loaded. And then he's like, what do you do? I go, I'm a comedian. He goes, oh, yeah, maybe you've been on one of my buses. And I can't remember the name of the company, but, growing up, all I ever heard about was Florida Coach,
Right. Yeah.
And they were the big ones. And then I had heard during COVID that a lot of people had sold their buses because there was just no touring. Now, when you started touring again, did they have to wear masks for a while on the bus?
Some tours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely a lot of venues.
Oh yeah,
a lot of venues on the coasts and stuff like that. It was it was pretty intense, as everybody knows. But it was just like that in the touring world last year.
Yeah, because that's interesting.
COVID tests all the time.
Yeah, I was getting it every 2 days.
Right.
Yeah. What? Now, how long you been driving?
I've been driving now 5 years.
Who was the biggest you had, Drake?
Probably Drake. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and that was all arenas, right?
Yeah.
Now, what is some of these venues? Like, what venues don't you like because of how you have to pull the bus in or whatever? It's like, are there like primo ones? Because it seems like a lot of the new ones are just set up so great. These new arenas, perfect for buses.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And the productions are so big now. They build them. Okay, you got 7 buses can fit in here and 3 outside or something. I mean, it's no problem when it's a big arena.
And just primo showers and rooms and everything. Some of them, man, you get there and it's like the shower's over there in the corner. It looks like one of those ones you get at Home Depot.
Yeah.
And you just throw it outside.
Right.
Animal.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, back then they just didn't build. They built things for sports teams and stuff, but there just was no it all started with the Beatles playing Shea Stadium, and everybody went, well, that didn't work, and it all just built from there.
Yeah, right. It's crazy. Now, where'd you grow up? Nashville?
I'm from Northern Virginia.
Oh, and you started as a musician?
I played, and then I went to school for music, got a degree in classical guitar, and that eventually brought me to Nashville about 20 years ago. And, I didn't even have much of a plan. I just said any life that I'm going to live in Nashville is going to be better than whatever plan I have here. And I just did it, and I've had a great time, great journey.
Oh, that's rad.
Yeah.
Yeah. You ever have artists that have dogs on the tour?
Periodically. I love it. I love animals. So
Yes,
if we could fill a bus with animals, I'd love it.
Yeah, they just make it so much better.
Right.
Like you got the mascot on the bus.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what are you seeing in the new buses that are mind-boggling as far as luxurious stuff? Because let's tell everybody now, over the last, I guess, like 15 years or maybe longer, the newest thing I saw was you press the button and the bus gets wider when you're at the venue, so you're not all claustrophobic. That seemed to be that, and other than that, and Wi-Fi seemed to be the newest thing. What are you seeing?
Actually, the only thing I'm seeing now is the styles have changed. Imagine walking to a hotel lobby 15 years ago. There was a certain style, and now you walk into a hotel lobby and everything's just sleek and a bit more minimalistic and stuff, and more LED lighting. That's what I'm seeing now. It's as far as the functionality of the bus, not much has changed in the past 8 years or so.
Nobody ever uses the shower on the bus, right?
It just depends on the group.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's wild. Because I would use it, but it's full of gear. But sometimes it's better than the venue shower. But it's small.
Right.
Yeah.
It's small. It's like going camping. I mean, to me, I think it makes more sense to get a real shower.
Oh, yeah.
But some people don't want to leave the bus, and they're willing to do a camping shower or whatever. And
Now, what does a bus cost now a week? Now, I back when I was first heard, they were $2,500 a week, and then plus the room for the driver every night, and then gas, right?
yeah.
So what is it now?
Oh, anywhere between 7 and 15,000.
Whoa, man! That is, and 15 meaning like a super luxury bus.
Yeah.
Wow, holy shit.
It just depends, yeah.
I just like to get that out there because, people are constantly going, these ticket prices are insane.
Well, the price of everything. It's not just, it's everything.
Yeah.
Your typical arena show, it'll cost a band $150,000 at least to do it.
Wow.
I mean, years ago, that if a band made $150,000 doing a show is fantastic, right?
Yeah.
You could show up, do the show for $20,000, no problem.
Right.
Nope. The costs are so sky high in every aspect, from the food to just the local hands, everything. It'll cost about $150,000-$200,000 to even do a show at an arena.
Yeah, people don't. They just look at a 5-piece band and go, these guys are millionaires, and it's like, hey, dude, you got to pay each guy in the band, then you got to pay each tech, then you got to pay the lighting guy, the sound guy, the monitor guy, the bus driver. Then you got to get the hotels. You got to pay the opening band if there's an opening band traveling with you. It's astronomical, and right now the gas is triple. It's triple.
You're right.
It's crazy.
And this is an amazing machine. This thing is 24/7. I mean, I can't tell you how many times that I'm walking out of a hotel while the fans are walking in.
Yeah.
I mean, the next shift is just starting, and we do our thing all night, and everything packs up into a little suitcase submarine on wheels. We're going all night, and then all of a sudden we're done, and everything opens back up in another city. This thing, when we're on the road, is 24/7,
Yeah.
and that's hard to wrap your mind around, right?
Oh, it really is. And I've been touring comedy for 13 years now, but before that I toured music. And it's such a different animal. So when I said yes to the tour, I was like, oh, yeah, no problem. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. Like,
Right.
This is, we get to the venue at around 9. We're usually sleeping on the bus still. And they walk the venue. Then they start unloading the gear. They get all the gear set up. They eat lunch. And then at 2, sound check happens from 2 to 3-ish. Then the next band sound checks. Then we break for dinner. The doors open, the people come in, the show starts. 1, 2, 3 bands, Marcus, then me. We close it all out, and then they load all the gear back out and the lighting and everything, and then we drive to the next city.
Yep.
It's fucking crazy.
I once heard a story that the military studied the way bands do this because apparently the story goes that the military couldn't physically do this as well as people on tour.
Wow.
So because you'll these people will load 15 trucks out in an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and a half.
Crazy.
And move all that down the road 500 miles and open it all back up and do a whole nother show. It's a phenomenal thing to watch.
Yeah, and it's way better than Carney's because Carney's is just such a you're at some old burnt fairgrounds or whatever. With rock, you are, even if you're the bus driver or a tech or anything, you're in the entertainment business and the excitement of like watching these shows go to next level. Like maybe you drive Marcus next year and he's in arenas and you're like, this is so crazy. We were in theaters last year, and before that he was in nightclubs.
Yep.
So you get to see the rise up also, which is really wild. Now, you were talking about you're going to get your pilot's license. Are you going to leave driving?
My plan is to do the same exact job, but in the air, private jet.
Wow.
Like I tell Marcus, hey, if you and I are ready for jets at the same time.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So what are you doing on that? Because my friend has his helicopter license, but it's a lot of work. It's not like the bus driver one.
Oh, it's more. It's an insane amount of studying.
Yeah.
It's definitely like going back to school. It's intense. So whenever I'm not touring, I'm back home in Nashville working on my license.
Wow. So have you flown yet?
Oh, quite a bit. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm at the very end, and I just have to go back, do my check ride, then I'll have my private pilot, and I'll go straight into my instrument rating.
Now, what do you find? Just props, no G5s or anything, right?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Just a little small
Yeah.
plane. Yeah.
Because, yeah, I mean, they got these new jets now, like the G7s and shit. These things are nuts.
Yeah. It's a good $40 million plane. Yeah.
Total different level of luxury, and it's insane.
That plane that can fly from here in Seattle to London, England, nonstop.
Unreal.
Private. Yeah.
Unreal.
Mm-hmm.
And, somebody like the Stones, they'll have 5 G5s.
Absolutely.
Yeah, each band member will have a G5, and then everybody else is on buses, or they'll rent one 747 or 727 for all of the crew and everything to fly.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Part of that is logistics, because like somebody like the Stones, when bands, Iron Maiden is a great example.
Yeah.
When bands are continent hopping, the planes just make a lot more sense.
Yeah. I mean, that's, I had read this thing where Bowie was afraid to fly. So he would ship over from Europe and then bus tour. And they were like, when he put out the Let's Dance record, Serious Moonlight tour, they were like, dude, you got to take some pills or something, because you got to learn to fly, because we can do 100 stops or whatever instead of 20.
Right.
And he did, and then it just went to another level. Insane. Now, what do you got after the Marcus tour?
I'm going back to flight school.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And I just stick with Marcus. So, I'll be home flying, and when we go back out on the road, I'll go back out on the road.
That's great, man. And Marcus is a wise man. He knows he's got a good driver. Do you hear driver nightmare stories? I had one, man. We just woke up in the middle of the morning, and the guy was screaming and yelling, and we looked out what was going on. He was baseball batting a dude's car in road rage in traffic. He's just out there, you motherfucker. I was like, what? I mean, he was fired immediately, but it was like, oh, well, we're just... our driver's going crazy out there.
Maybe I'm just desensitized, but that stuff happens.
Yeah.
I see that stuff, and I'm thinking, well, I don't know, Dean. I don't know if I have any good stories, but yeah. That sounds normal. I've seen that.
Yeah. Now, they finally passed the law. When I first started touring, the driver would just drive for as long as he wanted. He'd just go do bumps of speed or whatever and just
Pretty much,
drive.
yeah.
And never sleep.
Right.
And now it's 10 hours.
Yeah.
When did that kick in?
A lot of those people are no longer alive. But
Yeah.
so basically, when the electronic logs kicked in,
Yeah.
it's 10 hours, and now it's a big deal.
Yeah. Because Europe had that for years.
Europe had that, and now it's really been enforced. And people didn't take it seriously at first, and after the big fines, it's serious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, man, it's fucking, like I said, the scariest thing is first of all, you're driving sometimes superstar platinum artists. They're huge stars. And so you've got this, and like I said, there's no co-pilot or anybody up there with you. So you're responsible for 8 to 10 people to 12 people.
Yep.
And and some people cannot sleep on bus because they're so paranoid. I sleep like a fucking zombie. Man, I go back there. Every night at 1 a.m., I've got the rule in my head. I just disappear. I slide the slide door, and I get up in the bunk, and I'm done.
Yep.
And then I wake up, and I see you. Me and Jack are first up.
Yeah.
And I see you, and you're like, oh, we're in Seattle. I'm like, all right, we made it. God, it's been a pleasure to ride with you, and maybe
It's been a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, maybe I will again. You're a comedy guy, right? You watch comedy?
Absolutely.
You said you had seen my Conan set when I first met you.
That was fantastic. I was like, hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is a little bit different what I'm doing out here. It's like combat comedy.
I love that.
Yeah. So do I. It's wild. Because a year from now, I'll tell stories like, hey, man, I mean, last night that woman passed out, had a seizure or whatever, right in the middle of my set. I was like, oh no, man, is somebody dying? I stopped the show completely. Like, wait a minute, let's find out what the fuck's going on here. The whole crowd's screaming, help, help, you know? So, yeah, you never know what you're going to get at a rock and roll show,
Right.
you know? But some of those seated ones were fantastic, like the Ryman and all that. Do you go out to see comedy when you're in Nashville, or you don't have time, right?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of it in the hotel room.
Right.
If I get a chance to go out and actually see comedy, I will.
Have you drove any comedians?
No.
Oh, yeah.
But my company does drive some comedians. I think Dave Chappelle's one of them. And
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so I always hear stories of somebody going and pick them up in Ohio. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, because comedians are starting to all do arenas. So,
Right.
you know, you got like Kreischer's on a bus. I know that Dave does a bus. Burr has done a bus before. You know, they're out there on buses. And God, it's so much easier with comedians because there's no trailer.
Right.
You know, or actually Joe Coy has a trailer because it's full of merch.
Right.
But, yeah, Joe Coy's on a bus. So, yeah, it's way easier, though. Less people. Tons of room on the bus, you know.
Yeah, I feel like once the comedians figured out, hey, we can lease these buses too.
Yeah,
it's they're just the quality of life is improved, and so they don't have to bounce around like they did before.
So much better, man.
Right.
Well, hell, great working with you, and we're almost done.
Yep.
We go to Salt Lake tomorrow, or on 2 days from now. How long's that drive? Oh, we have to stop.
We're going to Boise.
Boise.
In Salt Lake.
Oh, I love Boise.
Yeah.
Are we staying the night there?
We're staying the day there.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And then Salt Lake and Denver and on for about another 2 weeks.
Ooh, we're going to Boise. I'm going to see if I can go see Aaron Paul's Mid-Century's got up for sale.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I got to text him somehow. I got to see this house. I really want the house. I don't have the money. I think it's like a $1.2 million or whatever, but it's one of the greatest mid-centuries I've seen in a long time. It's beautiful. And Boise's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, where would you live? You've traveled around like me for years. You see any states that you wouldn't mind living in?
Yeah, it comes down to climate for me. You know, if I can go home to a place that just is just nice and dry and not too hot.
Yeah.
You know, a Sedona. Boise's actually fantastic. But after being around so many people, I dream of a place that has a bit more space. You know.
Well, that's the thing with touring.
Right.
You're around people 24/7 in the venues, on the bus, everywhere. And when I get home, people always trip on it. I'm like, I just want it quiet. I just want to hang with my dog. I don't really. It's not like a loner or sheltered, but it's
not
just
at
like
all.
It's a decompressing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Because you have to get somewhere in your mind to be able to do what we're doing.
Right.
You got to numb it out as far
you go
as
home and you enjoy it and read whatever books you want and do all that stuff that you say, geez, I wish I had time to do this. Do it at that time.
Yeah.
And then when we go back out, then everybody just loves being around each other again.
Yeah. Look, we had 3 days off in LA. You loved that weather.
Sure did.
California weather.
Yep.
All right, man. Well, great to talk to you, and thanks for sitting down. I always wanted to talk to a bus driver, and I mean, I've talked to him for years up there in the front. Sometimes you just get up in the front seat there and ramble with the driver. Are there women drivers out there?
Yeah, a few.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the drivers, how old are you?
I'm 42.
Yeah, most of the drivers were pretty old when I started.
Yep.
So they're gone, I remember the guy that filled in for Motley Crue, John Corabi. He sang for Motley Crue a couple years, then got ousted again. He became a bus driver.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, right? I don't think he does it anymore, but I remember that. That would be weird. You're a front man in a band, and then a couple years later, you're driving a band. That's kind of wild.
Right.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you so much. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. Subscribe and leave a review on iTunes and YouTube. And this is another episode in the Marcus King Road Diaries. I really appreciate everybody coming out to these shows. It's just been a fantastic tour. It's winding down. Got about 10 more dates, and I hope to see you guys out there. Denver, Chicago, New Orleans coming up, all kinds of places. So DeanDelRey.com for the tour dates, and Dean Del Rey on the YouTube. See ya.